Hey guys, Voodoo here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Kissin Dynamite, Not the End of the Road, out January 21st on Napalm Records. This album has 12 tracks, 49 minutes in length, and this is the band's 7th full-length studio album. They are a German heavy metal band. Now for this album, they created a structure that's very interesting. It's dynamic, but I honestly feel like it could have been even better. But the way it stands right now, this is a record that offers you two sides. On one hand, you have songs that are very driven, that have a lot of catchiness and hookiness to them, and on the other hand, you have ballads that really bring the mood down and allow you to pause the process of moving along throughout this entire record. So these ripples that this album offers really makes the album feel engaging. I just don't like the record finishing on one of those softer songs. It gives a sense of finality to the record. I want this album to be more continuous. I want the album to be full circle, if you will, so that when you get to the end, you're ready to start off again by going back to the start. Having a ballad at the end kind of ends the experience for the listener. So I wanted the album to be a little bit more robust from that perspective and give the listener a little bit more to hold on to as you reach the end of the record. The other side of this structure that I felt could have been better was if they included 2 or 3 songs that were a little bit heavier. That would make the footprint of the album bigger. The album is engaging, the album is dynamic, the album is fluid, but it has 2 levels. The ones that drive you, those rock anthem songs that exist within this record, and then the ballads. Having 2 or 3 songs that break out of that mold and expand the footprint of the album would create even more of movement within the record itself, would make the album even more dynamic, would make the album even more impactful, more engaging, and increase the overall playability that it has from start to finish, because it makes it more volatile. And I think for an album like that, you need to break away from patterns as much as possible. Once you get into the soundscape, this record walks a little bit from the heavy metal roots of the band and more into the rock, 80s rock arena style sound. And you see that across every element, not just in the sound, but even in the way this album is constructed. This really feels like a live record recorded in the studio. You see that in the track listing, with the exception of the closing track. It is built like a live set from that perspective, and you see that in the soundscape that it has and that it carries itself forward. It has a big sound, it has a driven sound, a sound that has hooks, that has great melodies, that the vocals really help ignite song in and song out. This is filled with rock anthems from start to finish, and the ballads change ever so slightly the atmosphere of the record. You have rock songs, and then you have ballads that have a little bit more of a country vibe to the soundscape, to the themes, to how they come across. Something that's not new to the band, something that's not new to the genre. If you go back into the 80s and you look at those big rock arena bands like Bon Jovi, for example, they were perfect at creating albums that had this sort of dynamics. Songs that were very hooky, very catchy, very driven, anthems, if you will, and then ballads that had a little bit more of a country twang to it, that changed the dynamic, that changed the eyesight of the listener, that gave you 2 different sides of the band, allowing these 2 songs or these 2 song styles to be broken apart from each other, but still have elements in common with one another. And that's exactly how this album sounds, how this album feels through and through. Within the soundscape, we have to mention the drums and guitars, because I really feel like those 2 elements play a key role in how this album progresses and how you see the movement from track to track. The drums are very balanced, very cohesive. They never break through. They never become the spotlight of the existence of the sound. They're rather the foundation of everything else. They're in the background, they're holding everything together, and they're giving this album the perfect roadmap to exist and to travel upon. The guitars are a little bit more dynamic, they offer a little bit more life. And the songs that you have that rock anthem vibe, that live 80s rock anthem vibe, they really push the energy forward. They catapult the listener from song to song. They have a lot of drive, they have a lot of energy. The ballads, like I said earlier, they move more into that country vibe, so they go into a different style, they go into a different approach, while keeping some of those same elements of the rock-driven songs alive and well within them. So this makes them a little bit more complex, makes them a little bit more layer, more interesting, but still connected with the overall big picture. So the guitars really have 2 different sides, 2 different approaches, depending on where you find yourself within this record. On top of it all, you have a great vocalist, a vocalist that understands exactly what this album is all about. What is the sound doing? What are you trying to achieve with an album like this? And then you're going to go forward and create that final piece that really brings the puzzle and the picture to light. And that's exactly what you're going to get from the vocals. I didn't feel like we got a one-size-fits-all approach, or we not even got two different styles depending if it was a ballad or a more driven song. I actually felt like each track had a little bit of its own fingerprint vocally, and that was really important in order for you to connect with the lyrics, to connect with the construction of the songs, and to connect with the sound that creates the backdrop of what those songs are all about. So the vocals are definitely one of the spotlights, or one of the highlights, I should say, of this entire album, because they carry a lot of the life, a lot of the soul, a lot of the spirit that this album holds is really well represented with the vocal approach and the vocal style throughout. Overall, this record really depends on where you're coming from and in terms of what your expectations are for the album. If you're coming in with a blank slate and you enjoy that 80s style rock arena, rock and roll, this album is going to hit home. Like I said earlier, it's a live album recorded in the studio through and through. It has a lot of rawness, but at the same time very polished. If you're coming in expecting something a little bit heavier, something with a little bit of a darker tone, if you will, you're going to be disappointed, because this album is all about the hooks, it's all about the melody, it's all about creating catchy songs that make you want to sing along to them and not necessarily take you in a different direction. So for me, this is an album that's going to be very dependent on where the listener is coming from and what the expectations that the listener has coming into the listening experience. But if you look at the album for what it is, for how it was created and what it's trying to achieve, it hits all goals. It has single thing that you would expect from an 80s style arena rock and roll album in terms of how the songs are created, in terms of the fluidity and the overall design. As far as favorite tracks are concerned, I want to start off with No One Dies a Virgin. I really like this song, and perhaps I like it more so because of the lyrical content. The chorus is so hooky, and it's true. Nobody dies a virgin because the world finds a way to always screw you. And that's kind of the message that this track has. And there's a lot of little nuggets within the lyrical content of this song, really bringing other tracks to life, bringing lyrics and song titles of other songs to life. A very interesting design for a song like this from a lyrical perspective. Musically, the song is catchy. It's as catchy as it is musically as it is vocally and lyrically. So it's a song that has that going into it and allows itself to feel very compact from that perspective. The verses feel a little bit more controlled and the chorus is a little bit more bombastic. It has a bigger sound, more catchy. It comes to life. It has vocal layers that really add volume to the experience, making the song feel bigger and more interesting and allowing this track to have that rock anthem vibe in behind it. It has a great solo that brings an old school approach. When you look at the way this track is constructed, it is an old school rock and roll song. So you needed an old school style solo to really ignite that anthem vibe, to really bring to light all the right attributes that this song has to offer. Next we have Defeated. Great guitar opening, very driven. The vocals offer a different style. They offer some heaviness. They're a little bit raspier, if you will. There's a little bit more of a rugged edge to how the vocals come across on this track. And that matches well with a more simplistic driven sound that you're going to get out of the guitars. The chorus still has a lot of brightness to it. The verses are a little bit more contained. That is pretty much the formula that you're going to see throughout this album, song in, song out. But it allows itself to be more explosive, because when you have vocal layers and when you have a song that has a nice drive as far as the guitars are concerned, everything becomes contagious. The chorus is very simple lyrically. That adds to the fact that becomes an anthem, becomes a song that stays engraved in your brain. You want to sing along. The backing vocals in that chorus make sure of that. It really emphasizes that repetition that makes it very important for a track like this to have that simplicity come to life. And it has a great solo as well. It becomes a super fun song, really well constructed, really well delivered. Last but not least, Voodoo Spell. This is a fun track all around. I mean, this is a song that you not just want to bob your head to it, you want to sing along, have a beer, and have a great time with your friends at a concert. It's a live song style approach in a studio record. It comes across great. The verses are perfect. They have a lot of great elements that connect then to the chorus. The chorus has that rock anthem style to it. Great guitars, outstanding vocals. What else could you want on a song like this? This should have been the closing track of the album, because you would finish on such a high note that immediately you want to press play again and go back to the start of the album. This song should have been the closing track, and it has all the attributes to be a great closing track. This is it. Kissin Dynamite, Not the End of the Road, out January 21st on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.